So if you're listening to this right now, you might be prepping for a huge meeting, or maybe you're just trying to spark some kind of innovation in your field.
Right, or even just looking to, enrich your daily life a bit.
Exactly. Because today we are doing a deep dive into an absolute masterclass on innovation. We're looking at John Adair's book, The Art of Creative Thinking.
Yeah, and specifically, we're working off the 2007 edition published by Kogan Page, though I should mention it was originally published back in 1990.
Right, it's got some history. And it comes with some incredibly high praise. I mean, figures like Sir John Harvey Jones, who is huge in the corporate world, he actually calls Adair one of the foremost thinkers on leadership.
Which is high praise coming from him.
It really is. So our mission today is to completely deconstruct Adair's framework for creativity. We want to understand how it can actually give you, the listener, a tangible competitive advantage and, lead you down some new paths of creative activity.
Because it's not just theory, it's very practical.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can even get into the methods in the book, we kind of have to talk about the guy who wrote it.
Oh, absolutely. You really can't separate the framework from Adair himself. His background establishes all his credibility.
Yeah, and it explains why his approach is just so unique. Because, he's this world-leading authority on leadership, right? Like over 1 million managers have taken his action-centered leadership program.
Those million managers, that is a massive footprint.
It's insane, and his academic pedigree is completely flawless. He went to St. Paul's School, got a scholarship to Cambridge, has an Oxford Master of Letters, a PhD from King's College London.
He even got an honorary professor title in China recently.
Right, so on paper, you're thinking, okay, this is a very dusty, traditional academic.
But he is not.
Not at all. To use an analogy, the guy is essentially an intellectual Indiana Jones.
That is actually the perfect way to describe him.
Right, because his practical background is wild. He didn't just study leadership in some sterile lab. He was a platoon commander in the Scots Guards in Egypt.
Yeah.
And then he was the only national serviceman in the Arab Legion.
Which is just, think about the culture shock of that alone.
Totally. He was acting as an adjutant for a Bedouin regiment, and he virtually commanded the Jerusalem garrison. He even spent 6 weeks right on the front line.
And that's just his military career.
Exactly. After that, he decides I'm going to sail an Arctic trawler to Iceland as a qualified deckhand.
As one does.
Naturally. And then he worked as a hospital operating theater orderly.
Oh, wow. I actually forgot about the hospital part.
Yeah, it's just pivot after pivot. And eventually, he becomes the world's first professor of leadership studies at the University of Surrey.
And we should mention, he famously worked with Sir John Harvey Jones, the guy who praised him, to turn ICI, which was this bloated, loss-making chemical bureaucracy, into a billion-pound profit company.
£1 billion. Plus, he's written over 50 books in 25 languages.
It's an exhausting resume just to listen to.
It is. But so why does all this matter? Why does an adventurer's resume matter for a book on creative thinking?
Well, because by experiencing all those vastly different environments, the desert, freezing oceans, operating rooms, his mind was basically forced to synthesize completely diverse information.
He couldn't rely on just one way of doing things.
Exactly. It widens what he calls the span of relevance. And that's a perfect preview for the core lessons of his book. When you have a wide span of relevance, you have more raw material to build ideas out of.
Okay, so that brings us to the actual book. And this is where things get kind of weird, honestly.
How so?
Well, we transition from this action-packed, military, corporate turnaround life into the introduction of the book. And you'd expect a business metric, right? Like, here's how to optimize your brain for profit.
Right, flowcharts and graphs.
Yes. But instead, he opens with a very poetic, philosophical core. He literally opens with a quote from the poet William Wordsworth.
Oh, the discordant elements quote.
Yeah. I'm going to read it because it's just so unexpected. He quotes, "Dust as we are, the immortal spirit grows like harmony in music. There is a dark, inscrutable workmanship that reconciles discordant elements, makes them cling together in one society."
That's a beautiful piece of writing.
It is, but wait. I really have to push back here.
Okay, go ahead.
This is a hardcore business turnaround guy. He helped generate £1 billion in profit, And he's opening his manual on innovation with romantic poetry about the immortal spirit.
I know, it feels very
It
contradictory.
feels like he's trying to be someone he's not.
Well, what's fascinating here is that Adair actually views creativity not as some sterile corporate exercise, but as this deeply human act.
Really?
Yeah, he's focusing on that phrase, the inscrutable workmanship that connects unrelated things, the discordant element.
Oh, I see. Like his
Yeah.
own life. The Bedouin regiment and the corporate boardroom, those are discordant elements.
Exactly. He's saying that creative thinking isn't just about getting a competitive advantage at work, though it does do that. It fundamentally enriches your personal life in unexpected ways because you start seeing the harmony between things that seem totally disconnected.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about finding the hidden links.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that? Like, how do we start gathering these discordant elements?
That's where the book moves from philosophy into the practical toolkit.
Right, the step-by-step roadmap.
Yeah.
In the early chapters, chapters 1 through 11, he talks about actively shifting your perspective.
Which is harder than it sounds.
Yeah, he says you have to use the stepping stones of analogy. And my favorite part, he says you have to make the strange familiar and the familiar strange.
That is such a crucial concept, making the familiar strange.
Because we get so used to our routines, right?
Exactly. We just tune things out. But if you want to innovate, you have to look at your everyday problems like you're an alien seeing them for the first time. You also have to widen your span of relevance, like we mentioned earlier.
Right. And to do that, you have to actively cultivate an environment for ideas. He lists things like practice serendipity, curiosity, keep your eyes open, and listen for ideas.
And reading.
Yeah.
Reading widely to generate ideas.
Yes. And he has this major principle throughout all this. Chance favors only the prepared mind.
Which I love because it takes the luck out of serendipity.
Totally. I actually thought of an analogy for this while I was reading.
Oh, let's hear it.
So doing all these things, keeping a notebook, reading widely, practicing serendipity, it's basically like setting up lightning rods in a massive storm.
Okay, I follow.
Right. Like you can't control when the lightning is going to strike. You can't force the idea to happen. But if you put up the rods, you ensure you're ready to catch the electricity when it finally does strike.
That's a great way to put it.
And he emphasizes notebooks so heavily. I mean, think about it. If you're listening to this, how many brilliant ideas have you permanently lost just because you didn't have a notebook handy?
Well, I've lost dozens.
Yeah.
You think you'll remember it, and 5 minutes later, it's just gone.
Poof, vaporized.
Yeah, and this ties perfectly into the title of Chapter 6, which is all about practicing serendipity. Serendipity isn't just blind luck. It inherently requires that prepared mind Adair talks about. If you don't have the notebook, your mind isn't prepared to catch the chance encounter.
Okay, so let's say we're doing all this. We've got our lightning rods up. We're gathering all these ideas and observations. How does the brain actually process them into a real innovation?
This is where we move from external gathering to internal processing, which he covers in chapters 12 through 21, plus the appendices.
Right, the internal engine. He breaks it down into active analytical steps first. He says you need to test your assumptions and sharpen your analytical skills.
You have to do the conscious work. You have to analyze the discordant elements you've collected.
But then he introduces something a bit more mysterious for the subconscious processing. He calls it the depth mind.
The depth mind. And he notes that this deeply involves human emotion, too.
Which is funny for a business book. And the rules for the depth mind are tough. You have to suspend judgment, which I am terrible at, and you have to learn to tolerate ambiguity.
Tolerating ambiguity is really the hardest part for most high achievers. We want answers immediately.
We do. We want to check the box.
Yeah.
But here's where I found a major glaring contradiction in his pacing of creativity.
Oh, what did you catch?
So in chapter 14, he explicitly says, do not wait for inspiration.
Right.
But then, just a few chapters later, chapters 18 and 19, he paradoxically tells us to drift, wait, and obey, and literally to sleep on the problem.
Ah, I see what you mean.
So which is it? I mean, do we aggressively attack the problem and not wait? Or do we take a nap and drift?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's actually about the balance Adair is striking between those two minds.
Okay, explain that.
You have to proactively do the hard work of sharpening your analytical skills and testing assumptions, right?
Yeah.
You aren't waiting for inspiration to do the basic math or the
Let's
research.
still grind that out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But once that data is gathered and your conscious mind hits a wall, you have to hand it over to the depth mind.
Oh, I see.
You suspend judgment and you allow your brain to drift. You sleep on the ambiguity until the solution emerges organically from the subconscious.
So the don't wait applies to the gathering phase, and the drifting applies to the processing phase.
Precisely. And then finally, there's the phase he calls working it out,
Right.
where you bring that insight back to the conscious mind to polish it.
Okay, that actually resolves the tension perfectly. And ultimately, his goal with all this, and he states this clearly, is to think creatively about your life. It's not just for work.
Yeah, he even includes appendices with actual checklists for analyzing problems and making sure you're engaging your depth mind properly.
He makes the invisible process very visible.
He really does.
So we're coming to the end here. Let's just briefly recap. Adair's framework essentially takes us from preparing our minds,
Yeah.
with curiosity and keeping our trusty notebooks,
Right, setting up the lightning rods.
to utilizing our depth mind to finally reconcile life's discordant elements.
It's a complete journey from observation to internal synthesis.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
Well, it means you have a framework you can apply right now.
Exactly. But I want to leave you with a direct challenge based on Chapter 3, that whole concept of make the strange familiar and the familiar strange.
A little homework.
Just a little bit. I want you to think of a stubborn problem you are facing at work or maybe in your personal life right now. Just get it in your head.
We all have at least one.
At least. Now, if you were forced to describe that exact problem using an analogy from a completely different world, say, I don't know, John Adair's Arctic trawler, or maybe a hospital operating theater, what hidden solutions might suddenly become visible to you?
It forces you out of your silo.
It absolutely does. So try it. Encourage yourself to keep your eyes open for those discordant elements today. You never know when the lightning is going to strike.